But I'm not going to blather anymore. I'm going to bring on Rob Silver. Rob, great to see you, man.
You put on your best T-shirt for day one. You didn't want to build.
I did. My Expo Bacon. That's right. That's me. I'm not an Ex-Wobicon. I don't even have that one.
Most people build up to the best T-shirt for day 3 or 4 of a conference, but you busted on day one.
I actually do have my best one for day 4. Those at First Pitch Arizona will know that one.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. But
it's the one that talks about your love for openers. It's just like everyone use openers. I've seen it. It's spectacular. Sorry.
Why do those words hurt so much?
That's why you invite me back.
There it is. But yeah, tell everybody about yourself, Rob.
Nobody wants to know anything about me.
Listen to the Launch Angle podcast, everybody.
Yeah, okay? Launch Angle podcast, nonsense on Twitter and FBC stuff.
There you go. That sounds wonderful. And I promise when I come back later, I will not ask you an obnoxious question that you can't possibly answer. I'll do that. All right, we're gonna bring on Frank Stampfl now. What's up, Frank?
Yo, Nick, what's going on, man? Speaking of shirts, do you recognize this one?
I absolutely do. That is our softball shirt. I'm surprised you've even worn it once, let alone today. Since then, but we were so close, man.
So close to what?
To success, to great things.
So. We tried, man. What's going on? It's fun.
Yeah,
I'm happy to be here.
Well, thanks for being part of PitchCon, guys. If you don't know Frank, Frank is the host of the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast at CBS, and I got to meet you with Fantasy Best Friends back in the day as well. It's great to have you here. Thanks for being a part of PitchCon.
No, thanks for having me. You're doing something great here. Obviously, encourage everyone to go out and donate to help Feeding America. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and happy to talk with 2 great fantasy baseball players. I don't know how I had the pleasure of joining these guys, but I'm happy.
Did you just win tout? Yeah, okay. All right. I'm going to bring in Gray Albright now. I'm sorry, this is Rob Manfred's son, Rob Boyfred. Thank you so much for taking the time here.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I still, every year you always make me question if this is an AOL connection or not. That you have. It looks like you stepped up a little. just a little bit.
What's going on? Hey, so I've been talking to my dad, Rob Manfred, about the negotiations, and as long as the players accept a 35-year-old arbitration age, I think we're good to go.
Wow, you heard it here first, everybody.
Breaking news.
I broke news.
There it is. This is Gray Albright for those that aren't unaware of Razzball. Just did a fantastic redesign as well on the website. Definitely check it out. Gray, thanks for taking the time of your busy schedule. I know.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me. I also won tout 1 year.
You did. I'm going to go now.
I won by the largest margin ever, just so everyone knows.
I'm going to go. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, you can tell this is going to be a really fun next hour. So we're going to be talking Breakouts 2022, and welcome everybody to PitchCon 2022. Again, shout out to Nick Pollock from PitcherList for putting this together. If you haven't already, go over to PitcherList.com. Donate to Feeding America. It's a great cause, and we would really appreciate it. Again, I am Frank Stampfl, joined by these 2 amazing fantasy baseball players and analysts. I know that he just kind of previewed you guys and perked you up, but I'm going to do it again anyway. First up, Rob Silver. Listen to him on the Launch Angle podcast. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Rob Silver. Rob, how's everything going? How is the weather treating you up north? Because it's actually pretty damn cold here in New York.
It's been absolutely miserable, Frank. I'm a terrible Canadian. I hate winter so much, and we have been below -20 pretty much every day since that's Celsius. But when you start getting -25, -27, whether it's Celsius or Fahrenheit. So I've made some bad decisions to end up here, is the honest truth. It's been bad.
Jeez, man. Don't go outside. Do not go outside. Next up, it is Rob Manfred's son, Rob Boyfred, a.k.a. Gray Albright, the mastermind behind Razzball. Make sure you check out Razzball.com and follow him on Twitter at Razzball. How are we doing, Gray, Rob, Boyfred, whatever you'd like to go by? How are we doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm in Los Angeles, so I don't have any weather concerns.
God bless, man. I wish I was there right now. And again, I am Frank Stampfl at Roto_Frank. you can listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast, and you can find my writing over at cbssports.com. For the next hour, we're talking breakouts here. And I feel like we need to start with the obligatory, like, how do you define a breakout? What is a breakout to you? Because I feel like for many people, it's very different. So, Gray, we'll start with you. What do you say? Someone asks you, what is a breakout in fantasy baseball? Your response is blank.
I hate to, I feel like I am taking Rob Silver's answer, because we had discussed this in the chat briefly before we got on there. Yeah, we actually prepared for this. And Rob brought up a good point about how breakouts are all different shapes and varieties. Like, you have guys that are drafted in the top 75 that are going to give you top 3 round type value. So those are really like guys that you want to target, but there's also guys that are going after like 200 overall that are going to give you like maybe around 100 overall value. So there's guys like that you want to target. So it's like breakout is such a hard thing to define, and it really is kind of depends on the situation. Like, I wouldn't say breakout for a player who's going in like the top 100 overall. Like, I don't know if I necessarily would call them a breakout, but if you can get great value from someone like that, then they're just as good as someone who is going to go from 250 ADP to like 120 overall value. Like, that's, they're both breakouts in some ways, but it's just, it depends on how you define it.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right about that. The traditional sense for me is I think it's probably a player we haven't seen do something yet, like perform at a level that maybe they haven't done before, whether it's a prospect, a young player, a post-hype sleeper, or something like that. Someone who really has league-winning potential. But again, Rob, league-winning potential, that can also come from players that we've seen do it before, who just give you this surplus value that's going later on in your draft. So again, it's different. For me, I think I would probably lean more with the former, a player that we haven't seen do it yet before. What does it mean for you?
Yeah, well, as you'll see with my answers, it certainly doesn't mean a 17-year-old who nobody's ever heard of before, because I'm giving a bunch of old guys. To me, fantasy, whatever format you're playing, whether it's an auction or a draft, you have 260 artificial dollars. And if you want to win your league, you need to get to somehow 320, 330, whatever it is, dollars worth of value on your roster at the end of the year. And there's lots of ways to do that. So to me, a breakout player is a guy that you can purchase for asset A, who's going to return significantly more than asset A. And that can come in various parts of the draft. It can come at various age groups. It can come from hitters. It can come from pitchers, lots of different places. But I don't think that there is, certainly people who play in the NFBC, if they're competing for an overall, have this perception that it's like a big DFS tournament, a GPP, where you need this massive variance. So I need to pick guys nobody's ever heard of before, that there's a 2% chance that they just bust out. And I'm not, that's amazing. If you have a crystal ball and you can find who those guys are, by all means, take them. But I'm not sure that's the best approach, whether it's the NFBC or any other league, because the odds of you hitting on those guys is relatively low. But we're still going to give you some of those names at the end, I think.
Hey, yeah, I agree with all that. I 100% agree, because I stole part of that. But can I just say also, Yancey Eaton just texted me and said, I am happily married, but I don't know if I'd push you off of me. So I'm just saying, I'm getting fan mail.
Keep it coming, Yancey. So what we're gonna do is for the foreseeable hour, we are going to look at NFBC ADP from January 1st on. We're each going to choose one player from ADP 1 to 100, then from 101 to 200, and then from 200 on. And then for some reason, we jumped all the way to 400 on, but screw it. I mean, whatever. Let's just have some fun. Breakouts 1 to 100. Gray, we are going to start with you.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay. I thought we were starting with Rob. Okay. So I had Dylan Cease, and he is definitely a guy who I think falls into the category where his ADP isn't necessarily, awful. I mean, it's pretty, what is it like right now? 80, maybe 75?
82.7.
82.7, right. So he's a guy who, like, Rob was mentioning, it's confusing because I called myself Rob. So that it's a little bit weird. But Rob was mentioning how, guys who are basically guys like Dylan Cease, who are, at least in my mind, it's guys like Dylan Cease who are someone who would go like, in the 80s and give you potentially top 30 overall value. I think Dylan Cease right now, he's on the precipice of being a top 7 overall starter. That's my feeling on him. Like, his slider is just so nasty that it's essentially unhittable. I think he could throw it probably 70% of the time and no one would hit it. He's a top 5% K guy. His command got markedly better last year, down from 5 plus 5 in 2020 to 3.7 last year on the walks per 9. So if that gets just a hair better, if he's a 12.3 K per 9 and just like maybe a hair over 3 walk rate, essentially what we saw from Robbie Ray last year is going to be Dylan Cease this year, a guy who has come into his own and will give you top 7 type starter value. And I want to say he's going like around maybe the 20th, 22nd pitcher off the board. So a starter off the board. So it's value. I mean, those are the kind of guys that are going to win you leagues. I'm trying to get Dylan Cease in every league. I think, last year it wasn't a bad year for him. He had a 3.91 ERA, but I think we could see potentially like anywhere from a 2.8 to a 3.1 ERA this year. I love Dylan Cease for his, his price point this year.
You're right about that. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the only challenge for Gray is going to be everybody loves Dylan Cease. It's not like Dylan Cease is some late guy who's just lurking around. And while I understand the Robbie Ray analogy, Robbie Ray at this point last time wasn't going where Dylan Cease is. Now, Dylan Cease is coming off a much better season than Robbie Ray, so there's good reason for it. I think the challenge for Gray and for everybody in terms of Dylan Cease as we get closer to March and people kind of finish their research is you're going to need to make a call how much you really believe in Dylan Cease, because he's going to be going every single week. 3 picks earlier, 5 picks earlier, a round earlier, $5 more expensive. And that's when the rubber hits the road. It's one thing on a panel in January to say, I like Dylan Cease. When he's a 3rd round pick or a late 2nd round pick in March, then the question is, do you really like Dylan Cease? And the answer for somebody is going to be yes, I like him that much and I believe that much. But I think the challenge is his ADP by March.
Okay, so, I guess in defense of me saying Dylan Cease, he's going after an ADP than the guy you're going to say for the top 100 guy.
This wasn't a shot at you at all.
Oh, no, I know. But I'm saying we're not saying guy like I guess Robbie Ray was a bad analogy. I'll say like Corbin Burns last year. So he was going like in the 75 to 85 range. And he was a guy who I think a lot of people were like, yeah, he's going in that range and he's going to be like a top 10 starter. So you're getting him at a top, like you're getting him at like the 22nd starter off the board, and he's going to be a top 10 one. So he's a good guy to like target. I think Dylan Cease is kind of the same as that. Robbie Ray was going much later. That I agree with that. So, maybe the analogy wasn't completely fair.
No, I think it's a great pick.
I think the comp to Corbin Burns is fantastic. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think by the time we do get to March main event season, we're going to see him going probably in the 3rd round, I would imagine. I've already seen DCs where he's going in the 4th round, Dylan Cease is. So he's already getting, perched up a little bit there. The slider, I just wanted to point out, it really, really is ridiculous. We're talking about a 50% whiff rate on that pitch last season. From June 1st on, 12.6 K per 9, led all qualified starters. Dylan Cease did last year. So he is absolutely ridiculous. Rob, you are up. your breakout between picks 1 and 100.
Is another guy who you can make an argument really broke out last year, but I think I don't think the cost reflects that, is Jorge Polanco. Jorge Polanco last year in April was legit bad. So he started the year 1 home run, 206 batting average in the first month. From May 1st on, he was tied with Aaron Judge and Pete Alonso for the 12th most home runs in baseball. And I don't think people have internalized just how good that is. Of the players who hit 30-plus home runs from May 1st, only 3 players had more stolen bases than him. So Tatis, Ohtani, and my love, Teoscar Hernandez. Only 5 of the players with 30 home runs had a better batting average than him. Only 5 had a lower strikeout rate than him. So for 5 of the 6 months, he was a truly elite hitter. And everything underlying that, to me at least, screams legit. He finished last season player 26 on the Razzball player rater. So he was a second-round player last year. And I think he does just as well, if not better. Meaning better. What is better for Polanco? First off, he does level of performance for 6 months instead of 5 months. I think he could run a little bit more. I think that lineup could be better this year. And the fact that he has multi-position eligibility is just a bonus on top of that. So I think he is a legit second, third round player that you're getting in the 6th round. And to me, that is a breakout player. And the great thing, and I love guys like this, he's already broken out. So I'm not saying just angle a little bit. If you can just do this, if you can just get this pitch working, then everything will fall to place. He literally just has to do what he did for 5 months last year, for 6 months this year, and he's massive upside here. So I love him at cost, but I would chase him up draft boards if he has helium going into draft season for me. So I love Jorge Polanco this year.
So my thought on Jorge Polanco is like echoing everything Rob's saying. I absolutely love Jorge Polanco. My big question with Polanco, and I think it's a larger discussion, and I think it's so bizarre to me that like Polanco, like Rob mentioned on the Razzball player rater, he was 26th last year, and this year he's going at like 80 overall. So it's like so weird to me that a guy like Jorge Polanco he already showed he can do it. He's not old, so like why does the ADP reflect something so different? Is it because his upside, his ceiling may not be as high as some other guys? I don't know. It's just a fascinating thing to me that like a guy like Polanco, and Rob's right. I mean, he is already broken out. He's already been a top 2 overall round value guy. So why would he be like going as late as like 110 in some drafts? Like what? Like it just doesn't make any sense. And going on average around 80. It's crazy. I don't know. I mean, it's more of a deep thought, I guess, than anything else. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like it's something like that like to me it just puzzles me. Like there's so many guys like that. I almost feel like NFBC in October should just input our Razzball player rater like into their ADP and just have that be the ADP and see what happens. I'd love to see what would happen if like Jorge Polanco started the year with an ADP of 26. Would he fall all the way down to 80? I don't know. I don't think he would, but I don't know. It'd be interesting. Anyway.
Great. I think it's part of the mid-career breakout, right? He's not old by any means. Last year was his age 27 season, but I feel like we saw something similar from Marcus Semien when he did this with Oakland, right? The next year, his ADP, it didn't reflect how good he was. I mean, he was an MVP candidate that season, and the next year, I think he probably had a similar ADP to where Jorge Polanco is going right now. So I think it's just mid-career breakouts. People just kind of shy away from those, and they don't necessarily believe in them. Rob, I did want to ask why you believe in the power for Jorge Polanco, because I have a theory, and it has to do with the pull rate, 52.7% pull rate, by far a career high for Jorge Polanco. He was below 40% each of the previous 3 seasons. I think putting the ball in the air as much as he did, something we saw the Twins do a couple of years ago, actually helped fuel this power breakout. What do you think?
I think so. I think I've always thought he was going to grow into the power. I think Ryan, who I see is in the chat, put a bloom board up yesterday that Polanco had one of the biggest jumps in home run per fly ball rate last year of any hitter. So you would say naturally, well, that's a concern. That's going to regress back. So maybe the power really pulls back. What gives me a bit of confidence is it's not like his home run to fly ball rate jumped up to 37%, 42%. You're like, my God, this is ridiculous. There's no way a human being not named Barry Bonds can sustain this kind of thing. It's still a very middling home run to fly ball rate. And when you combine the fly ball rate, the pull rate, the ballpark, you know, will he finish top 10, top 12, top 14 in home runs? Will he tie Aaron Judge in home runs this year? No, but he's also stealing 10 bases, which, you know, no matter how much yoga and Pilates Aaron Judge does this winter to try to stay healthy for the year, I don't think he's stealing 10 bases. So I buy it.
All right, I'm going to move on to my breakout here between picks 1 and 100, and it's Eloy Jimenez, the ADP 61.6 in the month of January. We've seen flashes from Eloy. We've yet to see that monster season where he puts everything together. I've said this for a while. I feel like when he hits his prime, it's going to be kind of like Nolan Arenado in his prime when he was in Coors Field in Colorado, right? Where we're looking at a legitimate fourth category contributor year in and year out, someone that, you know, you look at in that late first round, early second round range. We haven't seen it yet. 31 home runs as a rookie in 2019, 15 homers with an 891 OPS in 55 games in 2020. He's still just 25 years old. And if I had a pick for who is going to be this year's Blue Jays offense, I'm sorry, Rob, probably not going to be anybody. But if there was a team, I would choose the White Sox. It just, everything came together. Eloy stayed healthy. Luis Roberts stayed healthy for the season. Jose Abreu just does what he does. I think that this offense could just be absolutely amazing. So, Gray, I'll throw this one your way. What are your thoughts on Eloy Jimenez and the possibility of him breaking out and delivering that season that, honestly, we've all been waiting for a while?
Yeah, no, I completely agree too. I think it's probably not the most exciting thing to agree on everything, but yeah, I do. I mean, I think Eloy just had a fluke injury last year, and there's no reason to think he can't do exactly what everyone expected going into last year. You know, remember his ADP, I think, if I recall correctly, going into last year before the injury was probably like before 25 overall. So, you know, like maybe in the 19 to 27 overall range, I think. I loved him. I still do. I think it's just a matter of him staying on the field, which, you know, outside of a fluke injury, he's never really had that many issues with that. He's usually pretty healthy. So I wonder if there's a large difference, like his ADP. So to be devil's advocate, I would totally draft Eloy Jimenez. But to be the devil's advocate here, his ADP and his projections of, you know, say 33 homers, 270 average, 0 speed. I mean, without major counting stats, which they're capable of, like you said, the White Sox should be a good lineup, good offense. So, I mean, he's capable of a 90-run, 115 RBI type year. So, I mean, he's capable of returning that. But 30 to 34 homers, 0 steals, and a 270 average, if you're going to be devil's advocate, you can find something like that later.
Yeah, I think you need the batting average, right? You need him to get up to 280, 290, 300, approach that. And then as a result, I think all the counting stats would be there if the lineup kind of comes together like I imagine that they could. Rob, I feel like this is a slippery slope that many of us do in the fantasy industry, but why would you take Yordan Alvarez in the 3rd round when you can get Eloy Jimenez 30 picks later?
Well, again, I'm very NFBC centric, and we shouldn't be NFBC centric because there's lots of people who don't play the NFBC in different formats and standalone leagues. The honest answer is it's hard for me to take either of those players, in part for reasons Gray said, in part just the things you need to get early in those drafts in terms of pitching, closers, and speed. But yeah, I think I think the point, because if I'm playing my home league, if I'm playing in a standalone league, if I'm playing in any league like that, then for all the jokes that are now making the rounds on social media, why draft this great player when you can have this really, really crappy player 42 rounds later? Eloy is not a crappy player. He's a great player. And if he's 95% of Jordan Alvarez, and I think there's everything to believe that his 50th percentile is something approaching 95% of Jordan's 50th percentile, then the discount and the opportunity cost makes a ton of sense. So I love the player. Like, I think player is great. The only question for me in my drafts is the opportunity cost and the things I need to do there. That being said, let's not pretend like Jordan Alvarez isn't arguably the second or third best hitter in baseball right now. So let us not poo-poo how great a hitter Jordan Alvarez is. He's not Soto, he's not Vlad, but he's right there with Soto and Vlad in terms of just how awesome he is. And Eloy is a step below those guys. He is.
Yeah, if I could too add that, like, Jordan Alvarez, I think from looking at my rankings versus others, I have Jordan Alvarez, I think 19th overall, and that's with outfield eligibility, which I don't know if I guess he has it in.
Yes, he does.
Oh, yeah. He does. Okay. So anyway, so Jordan Alvarez, like Rob said, I mean, if you look at his numbers, it's hard to differentiate him and like Juan Soto, and the park in Houston. Jordan Alvarez on a short list of like being a 50 homer, 290 plus average guy. Like, Jordan Alvarez is just absolutely incredible. Like, I think Eloy is also a very good hitter, and I like Eloy. Mm-hmm. I just think Jordan Alvarez is like really like tremendously talented.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, his combination of plate discipline, power, bat to ball skills, can hit lefties or righties as a left-handed batter, something I absolutely love, especially for young players. Rob, why don't you get us started with breakouts between 101 and 200 ADP?
Yeah, you're going to now see the trend of kind of boring old guys as breakouts, which perhaps makes a mockery of this entire panel and the concept. My pick is Trey Mancini, and he is in some ways the definition of boring guys. But his 162 game average for his career is 85 runs, 28 home runs, 82 RBIs, 271. That's basically Jose Abreu, a top 50 player. And I'm not sure we've seen the best of Trey Mancini. Like, last year, coming back from cancer, not a sprained ankle, cancer. His skills were remarkably stable from what they were previously. And, the counting numbers were a bit down. But I think if you put the whole cancer thing in context, it's amazing what he did. I have him as this year's Mitch Haniger. That's what I'm going to call him, which is nobody at the draft table, when you pick Trey Mancini, is going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe Gray got Trey Mancini in the 14th round. What am I even doing here? But I think if, again, like last year, why was I on Mitch Haniger? Because you just had to look at the body of work and squint past, in Mitch Haniger's case, in some ways, the even worse than cancer, not to make jokes of cancer, but Mitch Haniger's injury was gruesome. But if you put that aside and said, well, but now he's healthy, all he had to do was stay where he is, and maybe there's upside. And there were reasons in Mitch Haniger's profile to think there was upside. And it's exactly the same with Trey Mancini. I love guys like that. If he just does what he's done for his entire career and stays healthy, you have a huge value where he's going. And if he does, despite the ballpark changes, and I'm not particularly fussed, I think you're going to get him cheaper because of that. Then he's a potentially really, really, really good hitter. There are not a lot of power guys who also give you batting average, and he's not going to hit 300. He's not Jordan Alvarez, but like 25 home runs with a 270 batting average at that point in the draft, for all the talk of powers everywhere, is not that easy to find. So give me Trey Mancini.
Yeah, I think when you put it in context, Rob, especially given the situation that Trey Mancini went through last year, he faded the final 2 months of the season, and it really makes perfect sense. Again, this guy was coming back from cancer, so that's a really big deal. His first 4 months, he hit 264 with an 812 OPS. I mean, that's a pretty damn good hitter, and you're getting him, not too far off from a 200 ADP right now. 185.3 is the ADP there. Great. What do you think about Trey Mancini potentially as a corner infielder?
Yeah, no, I think for his price, it's a totally fine pick. I think you're. I mean, everyone said cancer, 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 cancer. I mean, we've said it, and I think it does. It might be applicable. I think there's a potential here where it's like he just sort of slowed down in the second half with his power. He hit 5 homers in the second half verse 16 in the first. So there's a chance here that I think you're right. That is just a matter of him building up some more stamina that in his second year back could totally be good. I think at, worst case scenario, you have a 25 homer, 250 hitter, which is for his price is totally fine. And there's upside, I think, on all those numbers. So yeah, I mean, I have no problem with Trey Mancini. I don't think, Mitch Haniger comparison feels optimistic. I don't know if I would go that far. I don't know if the power is going to be quite there. Potentially, I guess, Mitch Haniger, I want to say he had 39 homers last year, I believe. And actually, Mitch Haniger is a good, not to go too far down that rabbit hole, but Mitch Haniger is a solid guy who is also going way too late. Like compare like him and the player rater last year. I think he was 65th overall on the player rater, Mitch Haniger, and this year I think he's getting drafted around like 115 overall. So yeah, I mean, he's another guy where it's like, why would he go? Why is he suddenly dropping down? But anyway, back to Trey Mancini. I like him. I question the upside, but I do like Trey Mancini. I think he's a solid bet at his ADP.
To put a bow on Mitch Haniger, by the way, the ADP 110.5 right now, he's kind of got this Jorge Polanco thing going on where people are just not buying this mid-career power breakout. He was good in the past. He never really showed the power that he did last year. So if you're buying it, then yeah, Mitch Haniger is someone that you should be drafting right now. Gray, let's stick in the corner infield with your breakout between 101 and 200.
Yeah, he's you know what? Not to keep going back to this, but again, my guy is Jared Walsh, and he's another guy that like he already broke out. Like, and I don't even like we were saying earlier, like the mid-career breakout, so maybe people don't trust it. But Jared Walsh has just had his first full season under his belt. It's not even a mid-career breakout. Like that's just a breakout. And somehow he is going in the like 110, 115 overall range. I actually just drafted him in a league, in a 15-team draft champions league. I think I drafted him at like 115 around his ADP. And he was also on the player rater last year. He was around 60 overall. So again, it's like Jared Walsh is already broken out. Now, if you want to like nitpick, his homer per fly ball was a little high, I guess. The Big A, Anaheim, is not the greatest park, but he's shown that he's able to like hit the ball out of anywhere. I don't really worry. I mean, I think his fly balls were a little bit low, his ground balls were a little bit high, but in general, if he's also a better average hitter. Last year he hit 277. He's a better average hitter than that, in my opinion. I think he could be a 27 homer, 285 guy on a floor, where a ceiling, I don't even know if we've seen the ceiling yet. Like last year he hit 29 homers and 277. That feels close to the floor. Like I think there's more there. So Jared Walsh is a guy who he's already sort of broken out, and you can still get him at a good price.
And to your point, Gray, he did all of that without Trout and without Anthony Rendon in the lineup. He had 277, 29 homers, 98 RBI. I mean, that's a really, really good season. So what happens if those guys remain healthy in terms of the counting stats there? Rob, full transparency, this has been someone that's been hard for me to figure out, Jared Walsh, because he had a great season, struggles mightily against lefties, hits a lot of ground balls. So those are just two things from a power hitter that I don't like to see personally. How do you feel about Jared Walsh, ADP 116 right now?
I like the power more than I like the batting average. So I think that power is legit. I think it will be interesting, the various batting lineups that Joe Madden puts together for however long we have Ohtani, Trout, and Rendon healthy in the lineup at the same time. Hopefully, as a baseball fan, it's a lot of the season. But look, there's that clump of first basemen, and Walsh is certainly in that clump. And what do you need from those first basemen? You need first and foremost power, and you need a batting average that won't kill you, and you're not getting speed from them. So you're going to have to find your speed somewhere else. So I think he's a perfectly legitimate target at his current cost.
So if you were to take not you, Rob, but just the you and the royal you, if you were to take Jared Walsh and just do one of those, player A stats versus player B stats and take away their names as fantasy analysis like to do. So if you were to take Jared Walsh's projections from Steamer of 30 homers, 260, and you were to take his name away and just put Jose Abreu's projections there, you'd be really hard pressed to figure out why Jose Abreu is going 60 picks before Jared Walsh.
Yeah,
I think a lot of Jose Abreu slander today. I'm not about it.
Yeah, I think the fact that, and I was part of the slander. I think the fact that Abreu has been doing it for a decade gives it a little bit more certainty to it. But your point is legitimate.
Yep, I think it's totally fair. Jose Abreu, I think, could bounce back with the batting average, the RBI. I mean, since he's joined the league, I think he's like first or second in baseball in RBI. So it's
are you a White Sox fan?
I should be though. I do like the White Sox quite a bit.
Okay.
Breakout number 2 for me is Logan Gilbert, ADP 153.2, very up and down rookie season on the surface, 4.68 ERA, 1.17 WHIP. The underlying numbers like him quite a bit. 3.87 Sierra, that was better than rookie Alek Manoah, who a lot of people like, rightfully so. Blake Snell and Luis Castillo, 19.9% K- walk rate, tied for 26th among pitchers with at least 110 innings pitched last season. And I think the arsenal is there. A really, really strong fastball. We're talking about 17.5 Fangraphs pitch value. That was better than Robbie Ray, better than Garrett Cole, better than Sandy Alcantara. The slider, 18% swinging strike rate. The changeup, 16% swinging strike rate. I watched a lot of Logan Gilbert last year. He was just inconsistent. That's what it comes down to. And maybe that's something he figures out from year 1 to year 2 is developing more consistency with those secondary pitches. If he does that with the fastball that he already has, I think we're talking about a top 20, top 15 starting pitcher. And right now he's going outside of the top 30, top 35 in that range. So I do like myself some Logan Gilbert quite a bit. Rob, what do you think about where he's going right now? Right around guys like Erod, Ian Anderson, Sean Manaea, just kind of like these middling starting pitchers you don't really know what to do with.
I actually really like that clump of starting pitchers around like the end of round 10. I like the two Houston pitchers if they're healthy, Garcia and Valdez. Logan Gilbert, there's a certain like hipsterism it feels like developing around Logan Gilbert, which I'm not thrilled about. But that's not a shot at you at all, Frank. But no, I like if he is my SP3 in round 10, and I have at least one good closer, then I'm leaving round 10. I'm going for a walk and a pee at the break at the end of round 10. Feeling pretty good about my pitching staff. So I'd be perfectly happy with him as my SP3. If he's my SP2 in round 10, then unless I have like Garrett Cole or Corbin Burns as my first starting pitcher, in which case it really doesn't matter. But, but if he's my SP3, I feel good about my staff.
I'm curious. The walk and the pee aren't simultaneous, right?
We haven't been in Vegas at the same time, Gray. This could change this year. You'll see my walk and pee shtick at round 10.
Are you going to Vegas this year? Because I think I'm going to go.
I saw you on there. As of today, I will 100% be in Vegas. But if the last 2 years have taught us anything, it is who knows if there will be baseball by Vegas. I may still be in Vegas, even if there is no baseball for Vegas. But yes, I will. I miss going to Vegas for the NFBC and seeing folks terribly. So I am certainly booked as of today to go to Vegas for that.
Nice. Well, there we go. We have an announcement.
A second piece of news we have broken here today, Gray.
Big announcement. Okay, so Logan Gilbert for me, I tend to agree. I really hate agreeing with Rob so much because that really bothers me. No, I agree that like I like Logan Gilbert. I have no problem with him. I also really enjoy in a lot of ways that whole group of pitchers you mentioned. Like I really like Sean Manaea. I like the Houston guys you mentioned. I like all them. So I like Logan Gilbert, but if I can get any of those guys, I'm kind of happy with it. So yeah, I don't know if Logan Gilbert's going to necessarily be on any of my teams because I value a couple of those guys a bit more, but I mean, I don't have like really a major issue with Logan Gilbert either.
Yeah, as much as I like Logan Gilbert, I actually have Sean Manaea ranked ahead of him, so I'm right there with you. I think Manaea is someone who's like criminally undervalued right now.
Yeah,
right, we're gonna go right back to you. Breakouts 200 plus.
We should probably go fast this round because I want to get to we have 2 more rounds to go and 20 minutes to get there.
Let's do it. Go ahead, Greg.
Okay. My guy is I don't know who. Heimer Condelario. Another guy who I think is just like. I think we've already seen him break out. Like, I don't know, maybe like this is also remember for people who are listening or watching. Hey, what's going on, lovely fellas? I was gonna say ladies, but I don't think there's any ladies watching. Heimer Condelario, I think, well, maybe one or two, but Heimer Condelario, I think we've already seen break out, and I don't know if he's necessarily like has a huge upside. But for his price, he's totally like valuable at his going rate right now. I think he's he hits the ball hard. He's like a 22, maybe 24 on the really high upside. If you're really like looking at his total ceiling, maybe 25 homers he can get into, but he's probably not that high of a homer guy. He's a good average guy. He gets on. He's like a middle of the order for a better Tigers lineup. I don't know. Like if you're looking at guys for like a corner, like and third base, by the way, is a total shit show this year. Like third base is not a great position. So if you're looking to like punt third base and you're looking late to find a guy who could potentially just like give you some counting stats and not really bottom you out on anything, I think Heimer Condelario is a decent bet later. I don't feel like don't get me wrong, this isn't like one of those picks where it's like he's going to return top 20 overall value. I don't expect that, but I do think he's a good guy to get at like third base late if you punted it.
Definitely a high floor play with Heimer Condelario. His second half, he was really good. 282 batting average, 882 OPS. He lowered the strikeout rate. Home run to fly ball ratio spiked quite a bit for Heimer Condelario. And I agree. I think the Tigers lineup is improving. So, yeah, you need a high floor play at corner infield later on in your drafts. I do like that call quite a bit. Rob, why don't you keep the train rolling with another old guy that you like?
Yeah, here I truly make a mockery of this entire panel and ensure Nick never invites me back to PitchCon. My breakout player is a guy who's clearly on the decline and is untradeable, but I really like at his current cost. It's Charlie Blackman. And old crappy Charlie Blackman. So since he started his decline, so first off, I'm not going to argue that his speed is coming back. He's not going to start running again. So that's not the argument. Since he started his great decline, so from 2019 to 2021, if you prorate 2020 to times 2.5, he's averaged 89 runs, 20 home runs, 97 RBIs, 297 batting average. A list of players last year who hit over 290 with 20 home runs and 180 runs plus RBIs. Vlad, Bo, Teoscar, Soto, Freeman, Goldschmidt, Riley, Castellano, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Brian Reynolds. And I don't think as long as he isn't traded and his contract is as close to untradeable as there is in baseball, that he won't put up that line, basically. I think the power does come back to some extent. Again, not 30 home runs, but I think he puts up roughly that average line. And guess what? That's Ketel Marte or Brian Reynolds that you're getting around pick 230. So I think he finishes at least 100, if not 150 places higher than where he's going in draft. And to me, that's, even though it makes a bastardization of the term breakout, I think that is a breakout. So I'm picking Charlie Blackman.
All right, so some potential big return on investment for Charlie Blackman. It was the ground ball rate, Rob, last year, 47%. That was his highest ever in a full season, below 40% each of the previous 2 years. So I think if he hits more line drives, fly balls again, that we should see that power bounce back to maybe that 20 home run range that you were talking about. And oddly enough, just wasn't really dominant in Coors Field. I feel like that was the case for a few other hitters. Brendan Rodgers, Trevor Story wasn't great in Coors Field last year. So I don't know. Something was going on, but we'll see with Charlie Blackman. Breakout number 3 for me, Tristan Mckenzie, 235.7 is the ADP. Like Logan Gilbert, lots of inconsistency last year. Overall, 4.95 ERA, 1.18 whip. Walks were a huge, huge issue. We're talking over 8 walks per 9 in his first 10 starts. I mean, that is just unrosterable in fantasy. That's how bad that is. His fastball velocity kind of correlated with it. It was down 91.4 miles per hour on the fastball. Final 14 starts, he drops the walks 2.2 per 9. Fastball velo up 92.7 miles per hour. So fastball velo up, obviously command much better there for Tristan Mckenzie. He had a 10-start stretch from July to September where he looked like one of the best pitchers in baseball. I don't want to overvalue that. It's 2.96 ERA, 0.73 whip, 12.9% swinging strike rate for Tristan Mckenzie. He has flaws, the unique, the physique, you have to worry about that. I don't know if he can stay healthy. I mean, as skinny as he is. So what's the workload going to look like? But I like the ability, and I like Cleveland's ability to develop pitchers here. Either of you guys, I don't know if you have a strong thought on Tristan Mckenzie, but where he's going right now, I still think that he has a lot of potential going outside the top 200.
Yeah, I mean, first off, so hopefully somebody gave him a sandwich this winter, because if anybody could put
I'm
on.
picturing Tristan Mckenzie eating a sandwich, and you can actually see the sandwich like going down his body.
Yeah,
because he's so skinny.
I think Frank hit on a key point, and it's not a deferral to authority, but despite how bad some of their pitchers were last year, I do have faith in Cleveland to kind of figure out guys. And he is not he is not from the Corey Kluber school of pitchers. His stuff is different. His makeup is different. His physique is obviously rather different. But if there's any organization that knows what they're doing in terms of fixing pitchers, involving pitchers, Cleveland is certainly that. He's a guy that I want some exposure to, because where he's going, especially in fab leagues, DC's, it's a little bit different. You're stuck with him for the entire year. But in a league where I can cut him if it's bad Tristan Mckenzie, and there's obviously a range of outcomes where he's bad Tristan Mckenzie. But I think good Tristan Mckenzie, who 12 months ago at this time, there were lots of smart folks at this conference for very good reason who were throwing around words like Pena around him. And that's obviously hyperbole. Nobody's hero, but he's got wicked good stuff. When he's on, he's really, really good. So I'd like some exposure to him because the upside is there and the downside is cost is certainly manageable.
All right, great. Any quick thoughts on Tristan Mckenzie, or do we want to get to these next guys?
No. You can go ahead.
All right, Rob, we're skipping 300 plus. We're going from 200 plus to 400 plus. We're diving deep here for a potential breakout. Who you got?
Yeah, nothing good happens in the 300s. We want to get to the 400s and the 500s. My breakout guy is, and this one's an actual breakout, is Carlos Hernandez on the Royals. So the great Alex Chamberlain has he has a couple of sites. One of his sites, which is a fun toy if you have nothing to do one day, and it's useful, is it's pitch similarities. So it takes Pitcher X's curveball, and it's not based on results. So it's not strikeout rate. It's not ground ball rate. It's based on velocity, movement, spin rate, those kinds of characteristics. And it puts out a score of similarities on various pitches. So for Carlos Hernandez, who was legit bad in Kansas City last year, I'll come back to that. His fastball, the number one comp, and it was at 10. So go play with this. 10 means it's very, very, very similar, was Jacob deGrom's fastball. And that's a very similar pitch. But what else does he have? His changeup, the number one comp was Ian Anderson's changeup, then Michael Wacha. And you could say, well, Wacha's crap, and he is, but his change is pretty good. And then Lucas Giolito. Jacob deGrom's change was 5th on the line for most similar changeups. His slider most resembles Lucas Giolito's slider. Bieber is in the top 10. His curve Bieber is number 3. Nate Eovaldi is in the top 10. I've just mentioned like 4 pitches. In terms of actual results last year, he had four pitches with a 10% or better swinging strike rate, and his 4-seamer had a 9.7% swinging strike rate. So call it 5 pitches, each of which had a 10% or better swinging strike rate. That's legit. And his walk rate last year, because if you look at his actual stats, the walk rate obviously jumps out. In the minors, it wasn't good, but it was much better. So, given where he's going, I like him. And a quick shout out to Pitcher List writer Luke Smales, I think is how you pronounce his name, who mentioned him in a column on Pitcher List this week. His XRV breakout pitcher column, which you should go read. So Carlos Hernandez. Obviously, your season should not depend on whether I am right with Carlos Hernandez. Please let me be very, very clear. The likelihood he turns into Jacob deGrom's fastball and Giolito's curve and all of these things is still relatively low. So I am not overstating this. The temperature of this take is relatively lukewarm, but he's an interesting guy given where he's going in drafts.
I just recorded Rob saying Carlos Hernandez is Jacob deGrom. I'll release that audio in September. One thing that is with NFBC ADP in general, there's like I just looked up Carlos Hernandez, who's at 402 by the way, 425 ADP, but 402. Anyway, Carlos Hernandez has Rich Hill, Keyston Herrera, Didi Gregorius, Jose Miranda, Jose Barrero, Dylan Moore. I mean, there's guys that just last year, there were sleepers written about some of those guys. There were guys that were like in the top 100 overall. There was like, I mean, it's just crazy how many like value picks there are right now at NFBC. Like I'm in 2 drafts currently. I might have a problem, but I'm just saying like right now, there's so much value to be had with some of the ADP that's out there. Anyway, I just want to say that.
No, you're right. I think the player pool is much deeper for whatever reason this year than it has been in years past. All right, Gray, you have a pick going outside the top 400 as well. Who you got?
Yeah, my guy, I think is actually, he's at 534, which is just, I mean, it's crazy to me. Okay, so my guy is Jeremy Pena, who is right now going to be, I mean, if the Astros don't re-sign Correa, Pena is the starting shortstop, unless, the Astros make a move, obviously. Who knows with that? And Pena is a 280. Like, you'd be hard pressed to find a difference between Jeremy Pena and, like, guys who are being drafted maybe 250, 300 picks before him. Like, Pena is a 20 homer, 10 steal, potentially a 280 hitter. The hit tool is 50 grade on Fangraphs. It's I would even like argue that it might even be better than that. It might be more like 55, 60. He's really like most Astros hitters, like in general, the Astros farm system is one that they look to build hit tool. Like you see it in all their players. They build basically little mini Michael Brantleys. Like they like that. They like the 20 homer, 10 steal, 280 hitter. That's what they go for. But Jeremy Pena is right in that mold. I think he could potentially be like, I would say, if you were to say to me, Jeremy Pena, $10 on him winning Rookie of the Year, I'd be like, that's a good bet. If you can get good odds, go for it. I think Jeremy Pena is just being completely slept on right now. And he's going at pick 534 overall. Like, huh? I don't get it.
So for those playing in DCs right now, draft champions or best ball leagues, you need a really late round value. Jeremy Pena, he's played 182 games in the minors, 291 batting average, 18 homers, 29 steals. So a little bit of power, a little bit of speed there from Jeremy Pena. The last two for me. Go ahead, Rob.
If I could throw out a quick comment about him on why, because the reaction if I'm sitting at home is that's amazing, great, but there's no way the Astros are going into the season without replacing Carlos Correa. They're going to find somebody to replace him. An interesting thing is his defense is supposed to be awesome. So he's a glove first guy, which if I'm making if I'm making the argument on why would Houston be comfortable at least starting the season, seeing how he does, and then, if he's sucking or dressing it through a trade or something, is that his glove was his carrying tool through the minors, and therefore it's not crazy that Houston says we're just going to put him out there and let's see how he does. So I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, I've got a few prospects here as well that I want to wrap up with. Jose Barrero with the Cincinnati Reds. His ADP in January, 425.8. And Jose Miranda with the Minnesota Twins, ADP 421.3. Barrero in the minors last year, 303 batting average, 19 homers, 16 steals. Was just reading on The Athletic the other day that he is competing for the starting shortstop job. Kyle Farmer, God bless you. You were awesome last year, and maybe you're awesome again this year. But I don't know that he's going to win the starting shortstop job. They need to see what they have in this kid, Jose Barrero. If he's playing every day in Great American Ballpark, could be in just absolute smash in terms of power and speed for him. Jose Miranda, I'm not really sure where he's going to play. I mean, look, there's a chance Miguel Sano's hitting 150 on June 1st, and they're just like, no more. Like, just go away. And they give Jose Miranda a chance. He was arguably the player of the year in the minors last season. 344 batting average, 30 homers, 973 OPS. That was far and away his best production that we've ever seen in the minor leagues. But apparently this is a guy that they've liked for a long time. Good contact, lots of power as well, and potentially in a really good lineup with the Minnesota Twins as well. Do you guys have anything on the Jose's, Barrero and Miranda?
With Barrero, I 100% agree. I think people who are drafting Kyle Farmer they're throwing their money away. Like Kyle Farmer is one of those guys who just he had a good year. He's going to go back to being a bench player. He's not going to be the starter. Barrero is obviously going to be the starter, and it's just a matter of when. I think it's probably at the start of the season. No question in my mind, I would draft Barrero where he's going at 400 overall.
Yeah, Rob. I was just going to say for Miranda, I mean, third base is so bad. Like, if you just want to take a shot on upside in round 30 or later, that's what I've been doing with Miranda.
Yeah, I mean, you asked where is he going to play. I talked about on our podcast a couple of weeks ago. I like Josh Donaldson if they turn him into a DH 5 days a week. And the response has always been, well, but Josh Donaldson is going to refuse to play DH. He's a great third baseman. He was a great third baseman. There's lots of reasons to think he's no longer a great third baseman, but he's still a great hitter. And if he can stay healthy by DHing most days, and Miranda takes over mostly at third base, that's where the playing time comes from.
All right. Did you have anything you wanted to say on Barrero?
I think it's a great pick.
All right. Well, you can follow all these guys. Make sure you do. This was a lot of fun here today talking breakouts for 2022. Make sure you follow Rob on Twitter at Rob Silver and listen to him. Launch Angle Podcast does a phenomenal job there with Jeff Zimmerman and Stanley Manley. I want to make sure
he does a great job with people I don't really know.
I want to make sure I got it right. And you make sure you follow Gray on Twitter. He is obviously the mastermind behind Razzball at Razzball. Go check out all the awesome features at razzball.com. A lot of fun, guys.
Thanks
so much, guys, for doing this. This was amazing. I just got to say right now, all this Dylan Cease hype, I don't get it. I'm sorry. I just no. His command is still so bad with his fastball and his curveball, and the slider is great and elite. But
so let me ask you this:
he has a top 10 guy.
Let me ask you this question then: is he closer to being a legit, where Gray painted him as today, or was Lucas Giolito 2 years ago closer to that, before Giolito's breakouts?
Well, Giolito was so far removed, though. We didn't know about the arm angle change, and then all of a sudden he showed up and did it. Right, this is Dylan Cease. I don't see the next step for Dylan Cease from here.
He gets better. He gets better command.
Yeah, but that's
everyone
paying for him at 80 right now. Why not chase Alek Manoah, who did the thing? He did it, but he's going after.
Anyway, right? He wasn't even my pick. I don't need to defend Dylan Cease to you, Nick.
I'm just. It's not for me. It's not for me. Anyway,
that's fair.
I thank you guys so much for being a part of this. This was a fantastic panel. I love the times I can just kind of sit back and just relax and enjoy it like everybody else. That was fantastic. So thank you guys so much for being here.